Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Let me just welcome you to today's Consciousness Talk. My name is Bernard Alvarez, and I'm going to be discussing today a topic that I feel is very important to all of us, and that is overcoming the Darkworkers of the Illuminati. Before I go any further, and actually to get the ball rolling, why don't we try to define what is the Illuminati? I get really frustrated, and I'll start this off by saying I get very frustrated on how that term is being used. I do not feel it is being used in the sense that, for lack of a better term, I think it's being used as a disinfo. Illuminati is not the right word for what we're calling Illuminati, and I'm going to explain about that in just a moment. But let's start off with the actual definition of the term, the word Illuminati. So, the definition, according to Wikipedia and every other dictionary out there in the world, is the word Illuminati means the enlightened ones or the illuminated ones. It's plural. It ends in an I. If anybody knows anything about the English language, most things that end in an I mean plural. So it's many, the many that are illuminated, or the many that are enlightened. Now, if we're going to talk about the organization of the Illuminati, we have to go back to about 1776. When Adam Weishaupt created the Illuminati in Bavaria, the Bavarian Illuminati. And, we have to remember what this organization was. It was an organization that was against the aristocracy. It was against the oligarchy. It was blamed for starting the French Revolution. They were very much against control of the Roman Catholic Church. They were trying to take down the Roman Catholic Church. And yeah, I know I've spoken about this in a short vlog, but today I get the opportunity to take 2 hours to talk about this. And the idea that, these people were satanic or evil or anything like that comes from the misinformation and disinformation of today, because if you were living back in 1776 and if someone asked me, if I was living back then, and someone asked me, would I like to join an organization to help take down the government, to help expose corruption in the oligarchy or in the patriarchy or in the hierarchy of our system, and I want to expose the crimes of the Roman Catholic Church, I would be in it in 2 seconds. And I think many of you listening to the show would agree with me. So to say that this organization started off as a satanic, Lucifer worshiping, magical, dark order that's out to control the world, we really need to step back a second and do a little bit more research on the definition of this particular organization and ask ourselves, where did we in 2014, 2013, 2009, 2006, whatever, whenever you started on this path of activism, where did you get your definition from? Did you get your definition from one of these right-wing conspiracy folks? Did you get your definition from a right-wing conspiracy news person? Where did you get your definition? Or did you literally research and follow, as we say, did you go down the rabbit hole yourself? Or were you just agreeing with what somebody else told you? So as I went down the rabbit hole, I saw that the Illuminati was actually something I liked. I thought the idea of it was wonderful. Now, back to the history timeline of this so-called organization. It seems that, maybe in the late 1700s, the organization was dissolved. Apparently, the kings of the time did not like it. They broke it up. They arrested everybody. Maybe it went underground. Maybe it went underground. Who knows? Maybe that's when it became the secret society. Maybe that's when it got infiltrated by dark magicians. Maybe that's when it got infiltrated by, I don't know, satanic orders or whatever. But maybe. There's no proof of that. It's all speculation at this point. All right, so that's the definition of the Illuminati. That's the definition of what this organization was. Let's talk about how we use the term today. Today, for me, the term Illuminati basically defines and misdefines, wrongly defines, a group of oligarchs, a small group of oligarchs that control the planet, that control the financial system, that start wars, that control, the resources of the planet, controlling psychopathic oligarchs. Are they into dark and black magic? I have no proof of that. That would be speculation. Are they infatuated with the occult? Well, I mean, we've seen images of, a great example is, and I have to admit it is a great example, is Alex Jones's infiltration of the Bohemian Grove. That's a bit kooky, if you ask me, doing rituals around a giant owl and whatnot. We do see a lot of occult symbols in the capitals of the world. We do see a lot of occult symbols basically everywhere. Now, in this modern time, we're seeing a lot of occult symbols in media and music and whatnot. So there seems to be some type of infatuation with these occult symbols. Is it Illuminati? Again, that would be speculation. Is it a cult? Yes, it is a cult. Is it coming down from a specific energy or vibration that is trying to control the planet and its resources? It's fair to say that I agree. Yes, it is being used to control, manipulate the planet and whatnot. But is it the Illuminati? They don't seem very enlightened to me. I would dare to say that we need to stop using that word and start calling them the psychopathic oligarchs or the dark oligarchy or the Darkworkers. And that's the reason why I'm titling today's talk, Overcoming the Darkworkers of the Illuminati. Because, again, yes, there is a real chance that, and we know this in the Masons, the Freemasons, how a lot of people involved in black magic have infiltrated the Freemasons. I'm not saying all Freemasons are evil. I'm not saying all Freemasonic lodges are evil. But yes, definitely there is a lot of black magic going on in some of those circles. Look at the Skull and Bones Society. Look at the several of the other organizations out there that do black magic. The Thule Society is another one. The Temple of Set. There's a lot of them out there. They're not really Freemasons, so if you think about it, they're not really acknowledged by the Masonic order or whatnot. If you know your history or if you know anything about how they work, you'll know that they're really, and if they are, they're just like on the outer wings of Freemasonry. And again, I'm not defending Freemasonry. I'm going to get to them in about an hour. But again, it's to clarify, so we can speak with knowledge, so we can speak with understanding, with a clear definition and a clearer focus, because again, there is so much vagueness to the term Illuminati. It's not helping us. It's confusing a lot of people. I see it on my Facebook page all the time. We have 300,000 fans, over 300,000 fans on my Facebook page. And half of them think the Illuminati is evil. The other half think they're positive. Where does this come from? What I'm noticing is we are an international organization at the Global Illumination Council, G.I.C. I'm noticing that in America, the Illuminati is seen as evil. In Europe, they're seen as, the White Brotherhood, white magic, protecting the people, the illuminated ones, and whatnot. So I feel that we've kind of been misinformed because of, the United States has a bit of a psychopathic Christian fundamentalist skewed view of the world, and when people, a good example is, we get all these really well-intentioned people that are not necessarily as educated. Maybe they're more leaning toward biblical belief versus, scientific realization. And yes, while their intentions are well, they confuse the idea that, let us say, magic is evil, or paganism is evil, or Native Americans are evil, or, nature worship is evil, or meditating is evil, or yoga is evil, all coming from the control that they're under. They're under control. We're going to get into that. And actually, I can probably go into that segment right now. What parts of the lives do these dark workers control? And this is a very good example. They control our history. They control our beliefs if we allow them. But to end that thought about that whole, why Americans believe the Illuminati is evil, again, it comes from that biblical mentality. I respect you. If you want to believe the Bible, that's fine. Just don't impose your beliefs on other people and don't confuse people. The Illuminati, as a term, means the awakened ones, the enlightened ones. And we're the only ones that believe that, except for maybe the David Icke folks in England. Don't get me wrong. I love David Icke. I think he's awesome. But again, it's a misrepresentation of what the term really means. Let's think about using a better word. I don't know, black magic oligarch, or black magicians, or dark workers, or controlling psychopaths, the few who think they run the planet, They're only, and the reality of it is that their only sin, besides harming everybody, is that they're obsessed with power and control. They're obsessed with power and control. And that's what leads them down this dark path. All right, so what parts of our lives are these dark workers controlling? Well, and I'm just going to use the word dark worker instead of Illuminati for the rest of this program, so you'll know what I'm talking about. The dark workers, the corporate, greedy, oligarch, the few elites that think they control the world. The corporation might be a better term also, the corporation. These people control everything. The media, they control our money. They control our water, or they're trying to get a hold of all the water. They control our so-called freedoms, our laws, our police, our prison, our medicine, our food. Their tentacles, their fingers are in every aspect of our life. I'm talking to you on the internet using a computer that was, well, thank goodness my computer was built by someone, but some of the pieces in there were probably from a company that may not have the best intentions of the planet and the people. The electricity that we're using, that I'm using to do this broadcast, is linked to the dark workers' control. The screen that you're looking at the chat room, if you're on the chat room, that screen was built probably by a company that doesn't necessarily have the best interests of the planet in its view. So we are living in a world where we are literally surrounded by their tentacles, surrounded by anything we touch has been touched by them in some regard. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to share what I see. I see that the bed I have is from Walmart or whatever, or made in China, whatever you want to say. It's everywhere. It's all around us. And I'm sure unless you built all your furniture by yourself and you live in the woods off grid, and even then there probably is some type of remnant of it, they have a tentacle somewhere in your life. What parts of our lives do they not control? Well, the one thing I would like to say, and I would like to hope, it's our choice, our freedom of choice. But that would also be stretching it. A good example is commercial television, the media. I see it within the activist movement. There's so much disinfo. Again, if you ask me, using the term Illuminati was put out there by the Darkworkers to trick us, to create divisiveness, to make us look stupid, because that's not what it means. How much alternative media out there is really nothing more than fear pornography and tabloid and disinfo? I saw something today, and I'm going to talk about it for just a second. Someone had emailed me about this whole Stonehenge thing, and I'm sure if you're in the alt world like I am, you're getting the Stonehenge was built in 1950 article showing up on your Facebook page also, or your feed, or being emailed to you, or whatever. I don't know who put that first article out, but I think we need to find out who it was, because that is such disinfo. That is such disinfo. And we have so many people believing it. We have so many people within our ranks of activism, of alternative media, of conspiracy fact, that are believing this stuff. That, oh, well, look at that picture. They're moving the block there, and there's a Freemason ceremony there. And just because it's utilizing the very same thing that CNN does to manipulate us. Those images, the way that they're presented in that article, I don't know if anybody's seen that article yet, is using the way that's angled and the way that they're placed and the order that they're put in to manipulate what your outcome is going to be, your belief outcome is going to be. I can tell you right now, anyone with common sense is going to go on the internet and say, huh, or just think twice about it. Oh, could it be that maybe it was in disarray and they were trying to rebuild it? Could it be in disarray? Could it be that they wanted to turn it into a tourist attraction, so they put the stones back up because they were knocked over? So all these pictures of cranes moving the stones, and some tabloid fear porn profiteer is out there making people believe, oh, well, look, this was just built in 1950. It's I call it the Inquirer mentality. It's fear. If it induces fear in you, most likely it is under the Darkworkers' control, and that does include alternative media. Why do I say Darkworkers control? When I say Darkworkers control, we can even move into like a transdimensional aspect of what I'm talking about here at this point. Think of the energy. Think of it as an energetic stream of consciousness. An energetic stream of consciousness of fear, control, greed, everything that you were taught was negative, in church or in temple or wherever religion you were growing up. Everything your parents said, don't be greedy, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. There's this stream of consciousness coming from these few psychopathic oligarchs that want to control everything. And again, yes, we are right. It is in a tier system. It trickles down through our governments. It trickles down through our media. It even trickles down into our alternative media. And sometimes it's not even being done on purpose, but it's just this energy that we have become so accustomed to. The next thing you know, you might be aligning with the energy, and you're perpetuating the energy. And then that's how they control our thoughts, and they control our actions and our beliefs. We have to be aware of this particular energy that's moving through. It's not, I don't want to call it satanic. I believe Satan was a man-made concept, and, the Nicene Council made it up, as far as I'm concerned, again, to control people. And we're going to get more into that in a little while. But do I believe there's black magic? Do I believe that there is darkness and, I don't want to say evil, but destructive forces out there? Absolutely. Absolutely. And are these people utilizing everything and paying people millions and billions of dollars, very intelligent people, to manipulate us? Absolutely. Are they bringing in the youth by hiring the Beyoncés and the Mileys of the world? Yeah, they're going to hire them. They're going to throw them millions of dollars, and they're going to say, here, wear this Egyptian headdress, I don't think that Miley or Beyonce are high priestesses or anything, but I do feel that they're definitely tools of this particular energy. Yeah, those symbols are occult, but they're not evil in of themselves. Those symbols are being utilized for evil because of the intention behind them. Let's not call the Eye of Horus evil. Let's not call the pyramid evil. It's how it's being used that's evil. That's like saying all triangles are evil. No, it's how the triangle's being. That's like saying guns are evil. I know a lot of us are very pro-gun around here, and I'll tell you, I'm very pro-gun also, but it's how you use the gun. Guns aren't evil. It's how you use the gun. Same thing with symbols. Let's not blanket to get control back. We need to get control back of these symbols. We got to stop giving them our power. We have got to be aware how we're being influenced, and we're going to continue this in just a moment.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
And welcome back to the Just Bernard Show special broadcast of another Consciousness Talk. This month, I am talking about overcoming the Darkworkers of the Illuminati. During the first segment of the show, the first 30 minutes, I was talking and clearly defining what is the Illuminati, and basically my synopsis was that we are using the wrong terminology. The Illuminati means the enlightened ones. These people are not enlightened. They are oligarchs, control freak, evil, aligning, crazy people that just want to control the world and destroy everybody. Illuminati, if you look it up, does not mean that. So we need to change that term. What part of our lives do these dark workers control? And I kind of surmise they kind of have tentacles in every part of our life, and we need to start being a little bit more aware, and actually a lot more aware if we're actually going to create any change. But we are influenced, whether we like it or not, in some way or another, even in alternative media, even as an activist, even as a conspiracy theorist, even in our consciousness movements. And it is about being more conscious of how much control they do have of our lives. And we have to decide, is that what we want? Or have we had enough? And if we've had enough, this will take me to the next part of my talk today. What can we do about it? Well, I'd like to, and I have been saying this now for, 20 years since I started being an activist and a consciousness teacher. The most important thing that we can do is turn our backs on them. And what I mean by that is through non-compliance, through peaceful non-compliance. Now, this does not mean that you're going to throw every social norm out the window and you're just going to walk up and take your gas and go to a restaurant, not pay your bill and not pay your taxes and not, and break every law. This is not what I mean. What I mean by non-compliance is, first of all, let's start off with our modern culture. Our modern culture has been now created, and and I know it is synthetically created in a marketing office somewhere in Park Avenue. Park Avenue kind of decides what we're going to wear, what music we're going to listen to, what the people singing the music are going to wear, what's going to be the next hot item or the next hot topic, no pun intended. We know that this has all been artificially generated. This whole social culture, even the hipster thing, which I can't stand anymore, is so artificially generated. Someone found a pair of geek glasses and they're like, oh, let's make this fashionable and make, millions of dollars on it. Horn rim, thick glasses or whatever. No offense to hipsters. I mean, I still love you. A lot of you are my friends, but it's a fashion statement. Nothing against fashion. I like nice things. I have nothing against aesthetically pleasing clothes, aesthetically pleasing homes, aesthetically pleasing gardens. There's nothing wrong with aesthetically pleasing. But if we are going to move into a place of non-compliance, we need to ask ourselves, where is this impulse to buy those horn-rimmed glasses coming from? Is it because you saw 1,000 pictures of Justin Bieber wearing them on Facebook, even though you may not like him, but somewhere in your subconscious you see those glasses, and the next thing you know, you're running out to buy those glasses? What is noncompliance? Noncompliance is identifying how we're being manipulated in our culture. Noncompliance is turning our back on that manipulation. Don't buy the packaged food that is looking so cool and all your neighbors are drinking or eating or whatnot. Don't buy the horn ring glasses just because all your neighbors are wearing them. Don't listen to the band that all your friends are listening to. I mean, if you like them, you like them. The point I'm trying to make is that noncompliance is being aware of the manipulation and not participating, not feeding the monster with our thoughts. And that's only step one. And that's only step one of the whole culture aspect. I'm going to go a little bit further here. That's just culture. Step two, one, is not acknowledging it, not participating in it. Number two of that is not feeding it with your money. Refuse to go to the latest hip restaurant, the latest hip grocery store, buy the latest hip product or the latest hip fashion accessory or the latest hip album or download the latest hip app where, buying the latest hip technological toy. Yeah, I love the iPad and I love tablets. I don't have one. I think it's a great technology. I don't have one. I won't pay $700. And maybe one day, actually they are about $50 now. Maybe I'll go out and buy a $50 one day. But don't. Stop feeding the monster. It just keeps the more you give them any recognition, it's almost like a spoiled little brat, this whole dark worker, Illuminati, psycho oligarchy mentality. You give it any attention, it thinks it's doing good, and it's going to keep doing it. So non-compliance starts with culture, starts with turning your back on mainstream culture. Again, I'm not saying to break the rules. I'm not saying to break the laws. I'm not saying to not pay taxes. I'm not saying to not be a good, upstanding citizen of your community. I'm just saying don't give in to the illusion that is being created by Park Avenue, by the media, and don't feed it with your money. Now, let's take that a step further. We can, if everyone on this planet, I know that's a big order, a big tall order. Let's start with our community. Can you imagine in your community if you could get everyone to never shop at Walmart again? Boom, there goes another Walmart. And every community started doing that. There goes another Walmart. There goes another Walmart. Imagine if we could get everyone, and we tried to do this a few years ago. I'm sure you remember the Occupy movement wanted to do the remove your money out of the banks, and everyone fled to the credit union. I've been at a credit union now for years, even way before Occupy. I knew this. You should know this. Get your money out of Bank of America. Stop giving them your money. That's how they have the power. You have a mortgage, move it to a credit union. You don't like the credit union? Go vote. You can vote at a credit union. Do you know that? They give you one share when you open an account at a credit union, and that one share gives you a vote. You can go to their board meetings. You don't like the way they're doing stuff? Tell them. Get your money out of the banks. Change your mortgage. Change your credit cards. Non-compliance means stop feeding the monster. Stop using credit. Stop using credit. Now, granted, hey, you know what? I'm on the internet. Revolution Radio is on the internet. We have to get donations. I need donations. Revolution Radio needs donations. Do I use PayPal? Yeah, I do. It's one of those necessary evils. I agree. And we're going to talk about not a harm reduction in just a moment. This is probably leading up to that. But you do the best you can. You do the best you can. If I didn't have a PayPal debit card, I wouldn't be able to do what I do on G.I.C. I wouldn't. I tried to give up PayPal. It really became impossible. It became impossible to do the work I do. And because I don't use, mainstream banks, I use a credit union, I use PayPal. But I don't have money in the bank. Stop giving them your money. Stop letting them use your money. Stop letting them invest your money. PayPal doesn't invest your money. That's your little money to use on, what is that? I don't even know what that thing is that they started for the auction thing. I don't know. Anyway, the idea is non-compliance. And again, so let's start with socially turning our back on the latest manipulations of fashion. Let's turn our back on the latest manipulations of what we need to buy to be cool. And you know what? When it comes down to it, non-compliance, and I'm going to say it, and I normally don't say this word, is not being a sheep. Don't follow the pack. Do not follow the pack. Do not care what other people think about you. The freedom that you will gain from transcending your concern what other people feel or think about you is one of the greatest freedoms you could ever have. And I know there's a few people out there saying, oh, I do whatever I want, la, 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 la. And they're mean and they're nasty and they dress obnoxiously just to get attention. That's not caring. That's not caring. That's rebelling against the system. And trust me, I was a rebel. I know that whole rebel thing. Not caring is being focused on your goal, being focused on what you need to do to create a better life for yourself and those around you. That's what not caring is, not caring what other people think. Caring about your happiness, caring about the happiness of those within your life. That's a part of non-compliance. Being compassionate. Do you know how unfashionable it is to be compassionate? We're living in an era where everything is me, profit, 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 profit. Can you imagine what would happen to the system if we actually started being nice to each other and helping each other? They rely on us saying, no, get your own water. No, get your own food. No, get your own house. Look at it. Again, not caring. Non-compliance means not caring, turning your back on the system. Stop giving them your money. Stop letting them invest your money. Take your money out of the bank. Stop buying the stupid clothes that you're never going to wear in 6 months or in a year. There's nothing wrong with looking good. Don't get me wrong. I like to look good. I'll go to one of those warehouses or whatever where they have the 3-year-old fashions or whatever. Aesthetically pleasing and being clean and looking nice doesn't need to be in a state of corporate control. You don't need to be a corporate logo. You don't need to be a walking corporate logo. You can be clean, you can look good, and you can be fashionable without complying. And that brings me up into my next part of this particular topic is how can I reduce it? How do I do this now? How do I do it? How can I reduce the harm that is being perpetuated by the psychopathic, dark-working, controlling elite that want to basically destroy and control everything on this planet? Well, let's acknowledge what harm is being perpetuated. The harm that's being perpetuated is, let's start with our air. Our air is being polluted. Our water's got fluoride. Our water is being polluted. It's got chlorine. It's despicable. It's horrible. Our food has poison in it. I mean, we're talking the essentials here: air, water, food, all being manipulated by these dark workers, all being poisoned by these dark workers. How do we reduce the harm on that? Well, again, reducing harm is a very important term right here. It's not about being the perfect overcomer of the dark worker. Reducing the harm. Put a filter on your sink. You can buy a sink filter for $15 on Amazon. Yeah, I know Amazon's a bad word, but you know what? If it's going to make you healthier and take some of the poison out of your water, buy the damn $15 filter from Amazon.com. They have it for your shower. You can buy one for your shower for like $20. You don't want your body to absorb all that fluoride and chlorine and copper and minerals. It's not going to get rid of all of it, but at least it'll remove. I believe it's studies have shown it removes up to 60% of the fluoride. I mean, that's not bad for a $15 filter. Your food. Well, I'm discovering something very interesting about food. I don't know how many of you believe that organics and whatnot are all very expensive. I discovered a co-op here. Actually, we had this co-op here, and you can become a member of the co-op for some ridiculous amount, like $30 a year. And once you become a member of the co-op, everything's like half price. So find a co-op. You don't need to go to Fresh Market or Wild Oats or what's that called? I don't know what they're called. Whole Foods or the yuppie organic stores. Find a co-op. Become a member of a co-op. Get to know your farmer. It's a lot cheaper in the long run. In the long run, it will be cheaper. Buying that organic food from a mainstream store is going to be more expensive, absolutely, but there are ways around it. Learn. You have to take the time to educate yourself on these types of things. Figure it out. And it's not going to happen overnight. That's fine. How can I reduce the harm being perpetuated by these people? Stop watching regular television. Get rid of your cable subscription. That's the first thing I can tell you. Get rid of your cable subscription. I love certain TV shows. I love certain movies. There's Hulu. There's Netflix. There's other ways of getting the shows that you want. Wink, wink. Without having the constant chatter and the constant buzzing of that thing, that television thing. And also, you're paying way too much money. I'll tell you that right now. Cable is way too expensive for no programming whatsoever. They call it programming for a reason. How do I reduce the harm? Be clear. Be clear. Everyone's like, what does he mean, be clear? Being clear means, what do I want to create in my life by taking these actions? What kind of life am I trying to create? What kind of world am I trying to create? I can reduce the harm by not participating in, I don't know, paying for a Justin Bieber concert. I can reduce the harm. For me, I have a big problem with mainstream sports. I'm sorry, all you guys out there, but NFL is a nonprofit and they're raking it in, and these people are getting paid way too much money. I don't go to sports. I never liked them for that very reason. If I want to see sports, I'll go watch a local high school game or something like that. It's still a corporate logo. It's still a corporate logo. Be real. Reduce the harm. Don't participate in events that are going to feed the monster. Understand what the monster is. Understand what the monster is. Don't play that game. Don't perpetuate hate. Don't perpetuate bigotry. Don't perpetuate racism. Don't belong to a political party. Don't feed the division that has been created by the two-party system. Don't use labels. Don't label yourself as Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, gay, straight, bisexual, black, white, American, Canadian, Mexican. These labels were created to divide us. And I know people are like, oh, so you don't want us to have pride in our race. You don't want us to have pride in our country. You're the Illuminati. You want one world order. No. Complete opposite. The complete opposite. I want to stop playing the game being perpetuated by the so-called New World Order, the so-called Illuminati, and what I call the Darkworkers of the planet. The labels are divisive. The labels see us as different from one another and help them to perpetuate their wars, to perpetuate their economic slavery, for lack of a better term. When you see someone as rich or poor or whatnot, let me give you a quick anecdote. I don't have much time left on this segment. I was a housemate with someone several years ago when I actually started, but maybe a year into the work that I'm doing now. And they would always say to me, and I just thought it very strange because they knew what kind of person I was. And I've been thinking this way for a couple dozen years now. I'm 40-something. And they're like, oh, you know who that is? That's la 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 la. He owns la 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 la. I'm like, yeah, so? Oh, well, he controls this and yeah, so? Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the mentality we need to begin to transcend, to move past. I'm not saying that my friend was a bad person for thinking like that. What I'm saying is it's time for my friend to transcend that type of mentality. Nobody's better than you. No one deserves your respect just because of a title, just because they own a skyscraper, just because they're a mayor or a councilman or a president or a general. For that matter, even if they're the biggest saint in the world, we're equal. We are all equal. Now, are some people better at other things than others? Absolutely. Am I better at speaking my mind than other people? Some. Am I worse at, I don't know, mathematical equations? Yeah, than many. Some people are better at other things than others, but it doesn't mean I need to automatically respect you because of your name, your title, your position in this false reality, this manipulated, controlled reality. You will not have my respect until you earn it. I don't care if your name is Doctor, Sir, Lord, King, Saint. Again, reducing the harm that is being perpetuated is not giving in to these old standards of society. Stop giving away your power. Stop giving away your respect. Everyone has to earn it. And we have to ask ourselves, what is it that they need to do to earn it? What is it? For me, it's being compassionate, being a good person, showing integrity, being the example for others. And before we go on this break, we have a break coming up in just a moment. I just want to throw this in here. Integrity is extremely important in everything in overcoming the dark workers because they have no integrity. And it's a very simple way to live. Integrity means following through on what you say. Following through on what you say you're going to do. It's a very simple way to define integrity. Following through on what you say you are, following through on what you say you're going to do. Because as you know, and I know, all the dark workers in control, whether it be a corporation, a president, a media person, they never follow through it. None of them have integrity. Very few. Very, very few. You want to change the world? Start living your life in integrity. Reduce the harm to yourself. Reduce the harm to your planet. Have integrity. Follow through on what you say you are. Follow through on what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to be there at 10:05, don't be there any later than 10:06. We'll be right back. In this, the beginning of the second half, I'd like to begin by speaking on the deep ingrained. Oh, geez, I don't even know how to say it. I would like to begin on exposing and discussing how deeply ingrained organized religion plays into this whole scheme of things, of how organized religion has been used to manipulate the masses since the time of the Egyptians and has continued to do so. It is fair to say that organized religion was discovered as a tool to manipulate the masses very early on in humanity. Again, going back to the ancient Egyptians, where there was a point in Egyptian history where prior to the priesthood, everyone was considered a priest or priestess. Everyone had access to the temples. Everyone was allowed to do the rituals. Everyone was considered an initiate into the mysteries. And then all of a sudden, the patriarchy came in, and suddenly, the people of Egypt became subservient to the priesthood. So no longer could the average being or the average human being communicate directly with the divine. No longer was the average human being worthy of praying directly to the divine, of having communion with the divine. It all had to be done through the priesthood. It seems those who were in control decided to put a layer or a wall between the connection of the quote unquote average people to that of divinity, of God, goddess. Back then was lots of gods and lots of goddesses. But they created a wall with the priesthood. And you would have to do favors, or you would have to you would have to pay for favors. I'm sure we all know the history of the Vatican doing the very same thing, but I don't want to jump ahead here. Suddenly, you were no longer allowed to go to the temple. Suddenly, you were no longer permitted to go to the quote unquote Holy of Holies. Suddenly, you had to either pay the priest or ask the priest to do you the favor of praying to the god or goddess for you. It would have to be done through an intermediary. So suddenly there was a disconnection. No longer were we at one with divinity. No longer were we at one with our divine self. We had to go through an intermediary. To me, and by the way, for those of you that have studied any of this or know the history of Egypt, this era, and I speak of this all the time thanks to our guests that we've had on the past and teacher of the Kemetic school in Egypt. She is from Egypt. Patricia Awan talks about the Hanuti. And if you want to talk about the Illuminati, these Hanuti were the original Illuminati. These Hanuti were the ones who took control, who created the new patriarchy, who divided the people into peasants and priesthood. And as we move along in history, we see where that happens. If you look at history, you can see how society changed after that. Yes, the Greeks had a lot to do with it as well. You see where the Greeks destroyed the temple of the library of Alexandria, which had lots of hidden knowledge. And suddenly, this guy comes along on the planet, this dude Jesus, and he's talking about unity and compassion, and we are the Son of God, and you're the Son of God, and I'm the Son of God, and let us all love one another and take care of one another. And he dies, and the next thing you know, this organization comes along and creates this Vatican. St. Peter did not intend this to be the way it is today. I can tell you that right now. If anybody knows their history about the church controlled everything. Not only did the church control the people, the church controlled the governments. If you know anything about religious history, the Vatican had to allow and manipulate and create the wars that installed the kings of that time through the Middle Ages. The Vatican decided what you could wear, who you could marry, how you could have sex. And the same thing goes with Judaism and Muslim. I'm just picking on the Catholics right now, or the Vatican. It's the same thing. It goes throughout all these organized religious practices where that division is created, where you can no longer commune with God. You have to have your priest do it, or your pastor, or your I don't know, imam, or your rabbi. It is a controlling factor. It is about control, and we lose a certain bit of our humanity when we allow this to happen, and we have allowed it to happen for thousands and thousands of years. If you want to bring it into the modern world, you just have to laugh how ridiculously and comical and cartoonish this has all become in the modern world. This idea that I have to go to a little room, in some place and pay them money so I can be saved, saved to go to hell. And we can go into the whole hell speculation thing right now, which is quite frustrating when we speak about this type of work, when I speak about empowerment, when I speak about freedom, liberty. There is no freedom when you're living in fear. And when an organization, and I don't care if it's the church, I don't care if it's the White House, I don't care if it's your mother, telling you that if you don't behave a certain way, we're going to send you into this dark hole full of fire and you're going to sit there forever. What kind of way is that to live? What kind of fear does that instill? What does that do to the psyche of a human being? That if I don't do what you say, the way you say I need to do it, I'm going to spend infinity being tortured because I don't want to do what you say. This is really psychopathic. It's extremely psychopathic. So we need to ask ourselves, how much of that are we playing into? How much of that are we perpetuating? I know 90% of my friends, 90% of my fans, 90% of our listeners here, we've kind of outgrown that whole old-fashioned, you know, Christianity or Judaism or Muslimism or whatever. We've kind of outgrown that. We've become a little bit more humanistic. You can call it agnostic, atheistic, whatever, pagan. I don't care what you want to call it. I know we've evolved. Many of us have evolved. But there's still a little remnant of that left within us. And it's amazing how much it is ingrained within us. How much that leftover guilt, that leftover shame plays into our day-to-day relations and reactions to the things within our life. Do you know that according to the English crown, they are divinely, it's a divine will that the queen is the queen. Do you know that's not just in England? That's in every royal family. It is divine will, they believe, that they are kings and queens. And that comes from the Catholic Church, by the way. The Vatican started that whole, it is God's will that you are the king of this country. It is divine, I forgot what they call it, divine something. I mean, this is really, really sad. This is really, really sad. And I feel compassion. I feel great sadness for those who fall for this. Don't get me wrong. I am extremely spiritual. Anybody who knows me, anybody that actually listens to my talk, I consider myself a pagan, I guess. You know, I do believe in chi energy. I believe in karma. I believe in reincarnation. I believe in transdimensional entities. I don't know if you want to call them angels, but I do believe in, you know, guardians and all this stuff. I believe that there are beings out there that want to help us, you know, transdimensional or otherwise. So I think I'm very spiritual, but I am not as religious. Nature is my religion, as they say, or nature is my church. Nature is my church and love is my religion. But we need to, again, go through the history of what religion has done into all of this and continues to do. And continues to do. I just saw recently an article about the Vatican discussing UFOs and ETs, and I'm like, oh, geez, now they're going to get involved in this. You know, or what are they going to baptize the aliens now? I mean, what's going to happen? And I know I'm being a little facetious when I say this, but, you know, we have to really think about how much power is still in these old, outdated institutions that have no place in our modern culture. We're holding on to something out of tradition that is no longer a part of who we are and where we need to go. We must move past this idea of an institutional control of our morals, an institutional control of our thoughts, an institutional control of our afterlife. Again, I believe in karma. I believe, you know, hey, if I'm a bad person, more bad things are going to keep happening to me. Sure, I understand that. Of course I want to be the best person that I can be. I believe that if you perform black magic, bad things happen to you. You know, you want to do good magic if you're going to do that. And we're going to talk about magic in just a second. And this is the biggest thing, because we're going to be talking about magic in this next few minutes. If you look at the Bible, if you look at the Quran, if you look at anything in the Western big three religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all of them talk about how magic is evil. Anything dealing with sorcery is evil. Alchemy is evil. Meanwhile, they're all doing it. Meanwhile, in the back room, they're allowed to do these sacred rites and these sacred rituals, and God only knows what these psychopaths are doing in their secret, skull and bones society thing or whatnot, but we're not allowed to do it. And again, it goes back to what I talked about at the very beginning of this part. When they established the priesthood, you can no longer perform the magic. They can. They took magic away from the masses and tried to scare us away, calling it evil. Do you know that there are churches that still say that yoga is evil? Yoga is satanic? Really? Come on. Yoga? Meditation is speaking with the devil? I mean, such absurdities. Such absurdities. And I don't mean this to be disrespectful. I'm just stating a point. Logically speaking, it's absurd. I'm just being logical. There is room for logic in spirituality, believe it or not. To me, spirituality is about experience, not faith. So they took away the magic. They took away the magic. Now, yes, there's black magic out there. Yeah, I agree. These psychopaths, these billionaires that want to control the world, maybe they're not the ones doing the satanic rites. Maybe they're not the ones doing it, but I'll bet you they're paying someone to do it if they're not participating themselves. But we need to define what magic is in order to really understand this. Magic is basically, in a quick nutshell, magic is creating change and conformity to will. That's all it is. When you open a doorknob, you're doing magic. You willed your hand to turn that knob, you open the door. That's magic. I mean, on a very, raw level. Magic is creating change in conformity to will. Black magic is creating change to harm another in conformity to will. Gray magic is creating change to benefit yourself in conformity to will. White magic is creating change of consciousness to align with the will of the universe. Big difference. Big difference. Now, I'm not a moral compass. I'm not going to judge black magic, white magic, gray magic. It's all out there. It's all out there. We will all feel the repercussions of whatever it is. You're doing black magic, it's going to come back to you. All of those dark workers out there, all of those that are living in greed, all of those that are harming people for their own profit, it's going to come back. And maybe not in this lifetime, but energetically, energy is like a slingshot, or a boomerang. It'll all come back. I'm not one to judge. If you are into gray magic and you do I do manifestation work. I try to manifest, wellness or health or, as long as it harms no one involved. Yeah, sure. We have to be very careful when we do gray magic that it harms no one involved. You're meditating on a new job, that's doing that's doing gray magic. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it harms no one. But there is white magic, and white magic is what I prefer to practice 90% of the time. 90% of the time, my prayer, my meditation is to align with my higher self and align for the goodness of all involved in all of humanity. White magic opens you up to your intuition. White magic opens you up to the will of your higher self, which is your divine essence. That is your connection to God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, the source of all things. White magic is the practice of aligning your will with the source of all things, your will with God's will, so to speak. What are these practices? Meditation, breathing, acts of kindness, gratitude, chanting, vibrating, certain rituals can be used, dancing. Do you know that when you're an artist and you're painting a picture, you're doing white magic? Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? That place, it's that special place when the energy just flows through you. When you're not, well, you're thinking, but you're not really thinking. You're not imposing your ego. You're not imposing your will. You're connected to that flow. So you could say going with the flow is white magic. You could say Eastern philosophy talks a lot about aligning with the flow of nature. You can call that white magic. So I do have some good news in all of this. There are lots and lots and lots of other groups out there doing white magic. We always talk about the Illuminati. We always talk about the Skull and Bones and the negative Freemasons and the crazy psychopathic elite and quote unquote the Illuminati. There's white magic out there also. There are people who join together to raise the vibration of the planet. There are people out there who are trying to align the entire planet grid, energy grid, with that of the source of the universe. Healing the planet, healing the waters, healing our psyche. Humanity has been abused for so long. Do you understand how long we have been abused as human beings? We've been living oppressed. We've been living mentally, emotionally, and economically and physically abused in many cases when it comes to war and whatnot. There are entities out there. There are organizations out there. I'm not saying G.I.C. is one of them because we're not. We're a loosely based organization when it comes to those that want to change the planet, but we don't do rituals or anything like that. Now, do I do them on occasion? Yeah. I'll do a white magic ritual on occasion. I know several people involved in the work that we do that are doing white magic. So there are organizations out there. Don't think that the bad guys have a hold on this. I think that's the point I'm trying to get to. There are good factions within the Golden Dawn. There are good factions within, the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons. There are good guys. Now, I firmly believe, and this is my thing, I firmly believe that if we are going to be doing the highest form of white magic, we cannot use Freemasonic work. I mean, again, I'm not against Freemasons. I'm not. If you're good and you're trying to help the world, I'm all for it. But there's just this energetic undercurrent that I'm not comfortable with. There's an energetic undercurrent that leads back to this Hanuti patriarchy vibe. And for me, white magic is to restore the balance on the planet. And to restore the balance of the planet, we have to have an equal divine feminine as well as divine masculine. Those orders of magic like the Golden Dawn, and don't get me wrong, I trained with Golden Dawn. I know all their rituals. They're very masculine. I don't like it. It's not who I am anymore. I don't think it's who the planet is anymore. And I'm not judging. I'm not saying don't do it. Just saying for me, I feel it's very important that we start bringing a balance back to the planet. If you're going to be practicing white magic, do yourself a favor, do the planet a favor. We need to bring and restore the balance of the divine feminine again. We need to bring back the sacred goddess, or as they would say in the Gnostics, the Sophia, the grace of Sophia, the grace of the mother goddess. Bring back the divine feminine. We have suppressed the divine feminine, and we've masculated. Is that the word? We have created the modern woman to be more in the image of man rather than allowing her to be an empowered woman, is what I'm trying to say. Feminism. I'm all for equal rights, but I don't want a woman to lose her femininity to do it. I see the likes of, Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren and these people that are big in power, and they're very masculine. Granted, I'm not crazy about Clinton, but that's my own opinion. But it's a good example of what I'm talking about, that she has given up her femininity in order to become powerful in a masculine world. We've got to restore the balance. And we have to do it in a respectful way where femininity is celebrated and not oppressed. Allow the divine feminine to come through. Let us restore the balance of the planet. without losing its eternal, divinely inspired, innate beauty. The same thing goes with men. Doesn't mean that we have to lose our masculinity. Doesn't mean that, oh, because you have compassion or you're doing white magic to restore the balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It doesn't mean that you're going to lose your masculinity. It just means that you're creating balance. Let's restore the balance. Let us do the white magic to bring back this balance. And to bring it back to our discussion here, or the topic of these last few minutes, is that yes, there are organizations out there that are doing this. We're not alone. And I can tell you right now, and I'm sure you all know this, even beyond the 3D, there are entities, there are organizations, maybe even ETs that are helping. Maybe transdimensional entities that are helping. Maybe angels that are helping. We saw today, so much has happened today in the news that has shown that more and more people are getting it. And the more and more people that get it, the less control and more we have overcome these dark workers who are trying to control humanity. And it's being done out of love. It's not being done out of hate. It's being done out of love for humanity. I do it for the love of humanity. I'm not doing it to embarrass anyone. I'm not doing it to control over anyone. I don't want control over the dark workers. I want to overcome their oppression. But it's not about controlling them. It's not about hating them. It's about being freed from their grasp of whether it be our psyche, our lives, our economy, our laws, our unjust laws, I should say. There's nothing wrong with a just law. There's unjust laws out there. There is so much happening on the planet right now, and I firmly believe that as we move forward, as we begin to grasp this concept that we have been separated from our own divine will. We have been separated from our divine will. Our work now is to begin to align with our own higher selves, to begin to align without the use of an intermediary with the divine that we are a part of. No matter your religion, it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Jewish or Native American or Buddhist or whatnot, every religion has the idea that there is a divine spark within all of us. And we don't need the priest to bring us back to that. We don't need an intermediary. We have to get responsibility back of doing that work for ourselves. We have to take the responsibility back to do that white magic that brings us out of this controlling grip that they have put us in. And my favorite thing, and I've only got another minute here, is to remember when they tell you you're not allowed to do this, no matter what book it is, Bible, Quran, whatever, that's control. Don't let that fear. You are holy. You are divine within yourself. You have the right to experience God in your own experience and in your own way. That is your right. And I know there's a lot of people. I had someone ask me, well, I was raised as a Baptist, I literally, a gay man said to me, I was raised as a Baptist. I don't know how to overcome the guilt. And we're going to talk about that after this break. Overcoming the brainwashing of the dark workers. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about more ways that you can do white magic in your own home and in your own life. I'll be right back.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
And welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm doing a very long consciousness talk today. The whole show is being dedicated to overcoming the dark workers of the Illuminati. And again, we have covered so much information in today's show, from what is the Illuminati, what are dark workers, what do they control, how we've been controlled by religion, how we allow ourselves to be controlled by tradition. And before we went on the break, I left by saying I was speaking with a gentleman who actually had read my book and loved it. Really felt an alignment with the words and with the message. And he was saying to me, now this is a gay man telling me that he loved the message, but he was raised Southern Baptist. Now I'm in Virginia, so there's lots of them here. And what can he do to, how shall I say, I guess, get over the fear of going to hell? Again, we have to look at the idea that anything that tries to control your afterlife in order for you to live happily ever after, or to go to heaven or whatnot, and they're using you to control you to the way you think, the way you act, that is not living in divine accordance to, as far as I'm concerned. I believe that if you are in alignment with your higher self, if you are in alignment with your higher self and you are harming no one, you are going to have good karma. You are going to go to heaven if that's your belief. You know, harming no one, do what you will, as they say. That is something that we need to start considering again. We have to remember that we are greater than a book that was manipulated by lots of men to control other people. Remember the history. Remember the history. Remember, you know what? Here's a great thing for any of you that have any questions about what I'm talking about here. There is a series out right now called Borgia. I don't know if you all have seen this yet. Check out Borgia. And it's pretty historically correct, and it deals with the Middle Ages or the Dark Age. I forgot which one. The Renaissance, one of those, back in the day type thing. And it shows how the Vatican was manipulating literally the kings and the queens. And we're seeing this now. And that's that's what makes it so important. We are seeing how, whether it be religion, whether it be the dark workers, whether it be the psychopathic elites, are manipulating our money system. They are manipulating wars. They are trying to suppress humanity, and we've got to stop that. Sometimes it's better to wipe the slate clean and start over, and that's about where I am when it comes to my belief system. What is a belief system? What is a belief system? A belief system is something that we've created either through experience or through external teachings. Where does it land? It lands in our ego somewhere, and then that ego starts to kind of guide us in a certain way, kind of guide our action, kind of guide what our future beliefs are going to be. I believe that many of us now are living in cognitive dissonance, and please look up that word if you don't know what it means, cognitive dissonance. I believe it's extremely important that we begin to not live in cognitive dissonance. I believe it's very important to understand that we have got to move to a place where we are in alignment with our beliefs. That is, for me, white magic. White magic is the alignment with your higher self, living in accordance to your beliefs. Now, going and applying this into to today's talk, overcoming the control of the dark workers, overcoming the control of the Illuminati. Well, we've talked about that there really is no Illuminati in the sense that we believe it is. It is basically psychopaths that are trying to rule the planet, trying to control the world, trying to control your beliefs. It's time to filter that out. It is time to filter that out. We must move to a place where we are now living in alignment with what we feel is right. Here's a great example. I recently went to a so-called liberal church, and my friend was like, "You gotta check them out. They're very liberal. They accept gays and they accept female priests and whatnot. They've come a long way." So the first time I go, they're talking about if you get a divorce, you're going to hell. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's very liberal." And the thing is that makes me laugh. And no, it doesn't make me laugh. I should say it makes me cry. These are giggles of nervousness. It's a nervous giggle because how can you support something that you are, let's say you're divorced, let's say you're having extramarital sex, let's say you're gay, and you're supporting an institution that tells you you're going to go to hell if you're divorced. Really? So we're going to cling and we're going to hold on to these old ways. I mean, take it word for word and live according to this and think that we're free. Really? You call that freedom? You call that freedom? If you feel and you've fallen out of love with someone, you want to divorce, that book or your pastor or your priest or your imam or your rabbi is telling you you're going to go to hell. What kind of freedom is that? So it's something that we need to consider, and we need to move forward out of that oppressive psychology. And that's what it comes down to. The psychology of freedom, the psychology of sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Is sovereignty being able to buy a piece of land and living off grid and not having a social security number? Well, what good is that if you are still thinking what somebody else is telling you to think? Are you a sovereign thinker? Are you still clinging to the ideas that were ingrained in you as a child from a controlling aspect of your life, whether it be a teacher, a rabbi, a priest? How much control are you going to give them? Remember, you can live off grid. That's just a place. It's your thoughts that you have at any given moment that is your reality. Your thoughts are constantly with you. The stream of consciousness is constantly moving through your brain, whether you like it or not. You're never alone because your thoughts are always with you. What are you thinking about? What are your thoughts? Are your thoughts controlling you? Or are you just observing the thoughts? You know, Ram Dass, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, talks about the idea of mind and ego and how, you know, the mind is a wonderful servant but a terrible master. How much of our thoughts take away our freedom, suppress our freedom, take away our sovereignty? That is where meditation comes in. That is where allowing ourselves to not take our thoughts so seriously comes in. That is where the idea that quiet space between the thoughts, is where our true being lies, beyond ego, beyond belief, beyond thought control, what the media tells us, what our priest tells us, what our mom told us. Beyond that, your true self, your true higher self lies in that quiet space between every thought. And I know many of you are out there right now going, wow, I do think a lot, don't I? We all think. We have thought. You know, the brain is an amazing, amazing tool. It's an amazing piece of hardware for our body. It really is. But it can do, I think, what is it, something like 20 thoughts per minute at any given moment. We're doing 20 to 30 thoughts per minute. Imagine how many of those thoughts are affecting your future choices. Imagine how many of those thoughts are affecting your idea of who you are. Imagine how much of those thoughts are generating an emotional and or physical reaction in your life. When I talk about the media, when I talk about the dark workers' control, one of the most important things that I feel we need to get across here in today's talk is the art of proacting versus reacting. How many of us, and I know we're all guilty, I'm just as guilty, nobody's perfect, we're all working toward that greater idea of who we can be, that sovereign spiritual being that we're all working toward. How many of us react when we see a certain headline? When we read a certain story? How many of us react when we listen to the Just Bernard show or the Alex Jones show or CNN or David Icke or any of these really important, things that are being spoken of, but it does generate a reaction. How many of us can say that we're not affected by what we're exposed to? The idea of being a sovereign spiritual being is to be that calm center 24/7. That is a true enlightened being. Living in your calm center, the center of the storm. I always like to visualize it like a tornado around me, but I'm in the center of that tornado and I'm not moving. I'm not being affected by seeing the cows flying by or the car flying over my head. No pun intended right now with the horrible weather that's happening. But that concept, that idea of being proactive, looking at the information, digesting the information, and then making a conscious choice on your next thought and or action. When information is being presented to you, no matter where it comes from, it could be your wife, it could be me, it could be CNN. When you're getting information, do you know how to process the information and then make a conscious decision on your next thought process and or action? Or are you subconsciously already making a decision? Are you subconsciously already have a reaction that's been filed away that you've used in the past because that's similar to that reaction, that information that you've had in the past. So you're going to react exactly the same way you did when you first heard information similar to that. Are we a slave to our thoughts? Are you a slave to your thoughts? Are you reacting? And now when I'm speaking of reaction, let me also throw in, and again, I could talk about this. We can do this. This could be an 8-hour presentation, but I'm trying to condense this into a 2-hour show, is the idea of clinging to the outcome. A lot of times that reaction, and this will help. Hopefully this will help with this aspect of our discussion here today. When we're clinging to a specific outcome, let's say it's an election, whatever. I don't give much credence to elections nowadays, but many people do, and they get very emotionally involved in that. And when that election doesn't come out a certain way, man, there is a lot of reaction. We have got to understand that we are not in control of the outcome. We have got to let go of the outcome. I'm not saying giving up on goals. That doesn't mean giving up on goals. Yes, of course we all have goals. Of course we all want to live happily. We all want to be financially secure. We all want love in our life. We all want, family, friends, whatever it is. I'm not saying giving up on goals, but not to take the outcome so personally when it doesn't end up the way that we wanted it to. Oh, I want this to be a certain way. I want this to come out a certain way, or I'm just not going to be happy. You're shooting yourself in the foot. We shoot ourselves in the foot every time we cling to an expected outcome. One of the things I wanted to talk about in today's talk, and I actually wanted to end today's talk on this, is how can I protect myself and my family during these times? Can I use white magic? I believe firmly, if I'm going to protect myself and my family, it is about not feeding the emotional, physical, and financial monster that is the mess that we're in right now. If we are constantly going to point out everything that is wrong, we're feeding that negativity. I'm not saying not to acknowledge it. Of course I'm going to acknowledge it. But a good example of this is we see so many people that are so angry, and that rubs off on the family. We see so many people that are living in fear. That rubs off on the family. The moment that you make a psychic or psychological link with, quote unquote, the dark workers, the global elites, the oligarchs, the war, everything that's wrong with this planet, you're creating an energetic link and you're bringing it into your home, it's going to rub off. When you get that idea that I'm a victim of the Illuminati, of the dark worker, humanity is a victim. We're victims. You begin to live like a victim. We cannot be victims. We need to let go of outcomes. We need to allow ourselves to align with our higher self. We need to allow ourselves to not be reactive, to raise our vibration, to live in a state of love. If you want to protect yourself and protect your family, besides the common sense, common sense thing. If you see something, if you see a hurricane is coming, you're going to buy 2 weeks worth of food. If you see a war is coming, you're going to buy a month worth of food. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against survivalism or prepping or anything like that. But I'm saying energetically speaking, because we're not talking about losing your money. So what? Do you know what? The economy collapses, you lose your money, but you still have your family. I'm speaking energetically. We are talking about a struggle between the goodness of your soul, whatever that may be, and allowing that soul, whatever that may be, to be a pawn within this mess the dark workers have created. Some want to call it a war between good and evil. I don't want to call it a war between good and evil, but I will call it, we are at a time where we are struggling to find our souls. We are struggling to keep our souls, to keep our spiritual sovereignty. And the only way that I can protect myself or my family is to raise my vibration, not become a victim. You know what? You lose your job. Hey, you know what? So many people have lost their job. You lost your savings. So many people have lost their savings. There's a war in the country next door. There's war all over the world right now. Yes, we want all of that to end, of course. I'm not disrespecting the troubles, the personal troubles that we all go through. I don't mean any disrespect at all. But in the end, to truly overcome the control of the dark workers, to not let them have any control. And the way we do that is to not allow ourselves to begin to think like a victim, not allow ourselves to be caught up in a specific outcome where we begin to react when things don't come our way the way we expect them to, and to be very proactive. Think things through. Do not live in a reactive world. Don't be that ping pong ball that bounces back and forth when it's shot out of the slider thing or whatever. Don't be a ping pong ball. You want to go in a specific direction. Think about it. Think about what direction it is you need to go through. Raise your vibration. Live in a state of awareness. Live in a state of being conscientious, making conscientious choices, whether it be what media you allow into your consciousness. Be aware of what media you're allowing in your consciousness. How does it make you feel? Be aware of what you're putting into your body. Read labels. It's as simple as that. Read labels. Better yet, buy something without labels that you don't need to read ingredients. Don't give your money to them. Stop feeding the beast. Stop feeding the beast. And yeah, I probably should have talked about this a lot earlier, but we cannot support the wars. We can't. My my partner may decide to go to war. I'll be like, you know what? I love you, but I don't agree with you. I'm sorry. I'm not going to wear yellow ribbons and say, yeah, go kill those people for Lockheed Martin. No. If you're my friend, you're my family, I love you, I support you unconditionally, but I'm not going to prance around like a lunatic waving flags and wearing yellow ribbons. Absolutely not. That's another form of mind control right there. Be conscientious of our decisions. be conscientious of our choices, be aware of what we're giving our energy to. Are we giving our energy to sovereignty? Are we giving our energy to an empowered humanity? Or are we giving our energy to the actual corruption and destruction and the hatred? And are we hating the hate? Doesn't work that way. You don't win by hating. It is what it is, and it's horrible. We can acknowledge that. It is what it is, and it's horrible. I'm going to change it. I'm going to decide to think differently. I'm going to decide to live differently. I'm going to be more conscientious. I'm going to be more aware of the thoughts that I think, of the words that I say, of how I spend my money, and who I give my support to. I'm going to be a white light in this darkness. I am overcoming this darkness. I have overcome this darkness. I intend, I am living freely. I intend, I am a spiritually sovereign being. I intend, I think for myself, and I live in love and in harmony with the rest of humanity. Well, guys, we are out of time, and I hope that is a good final thought to leave you with. I want to thank you for joining me for today's talk. It's been a great talk. I really enjoyed putting it together. I really enjoyed sharing it with you.